guys, welcome to week 3 of Q&A with D&J. I think we've had some pretty good questions the last couple weeks. We're starting to get a couple more filling in, which is good. So I think we should just dive right into it.
Get it.
Our first question comes from Christina, and she asks, how do I get faster for lacrosse season in the spring? You want to start that one off, Bill? Want to get situated?
Christina, well, we do a lot of different things. From a speed perspective, I think the biggest thing that we've kind of adopted is all the stuff from Derek Hansen.
Yep.
Which is a lot of just mechanics work. So a lot of times, the biggest issue with speed is going to be how they're producing it, and just like faulty mechanics.
Yeah.
Some of that can come from lack of strength in certain areas, but a lot of times it's just going to be them understanding what the position is that they need to be best to produce force.
Yeah. Like anything, like a squat, right?
Yeah.
It's like if they're doing a squat improperly, we're probably not going to be able to load them optimally, right? So, I mean, when it comes to sprinting, same thing.
Same thing with velocity is not going to be able to get high if they're not in the right position.
Exactly. So I mean, we've been incorporating a lot of skipping variations, trying to correct those mechanics, using a little load. So whether it's sled resisted or band resisted starts, accelerations, and even kind of just static high knees and skips in place with a little bit of band resistance to kind of get that little bit of a forward lean that we're going to be simulating to work those acceleration and stuff, right? So it's a little bit more position specific with that.
And then as the position gets better, it's just about increasing frequency, and as that increases, the velocity will increase. So, we don't do a whole lot of fancy shit. It's really just like hammer mechanics, get them stronger, increase frequency from, after the mechanics are straight and they're in the right position. Yeah. And then from there, it just kind of works itself out for the most part.
Yeah.
And just kind of taking them along the progression of what they're weak in.
Yeah.
When it comes to swim mechanics, and just adjusting it from there.
Yeah, kind of hammering that down.
And then the change of direction stuff's kind of a little bit separate piece, but that's always going to be sprinkled in and along with the same program.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, moving on. Mike asks, what are the major differences in a strength program versus a fat loss program, and can you achieve both at the same time?
Dive in first.
Yeah. So with this, I mean, I think we see with a lot of our people, especially our general population people, and even some of our athletes that come in, they usually they give you the cliche, I want to build muscle and lose fat, or turn my fat into muscle is the best one you can get.
Yeah.
Which you can't do, but plain and simple, you can't do it. I mean, if you just look at it from like a broad perspective, if we strength train a little bit more, they're going to be burning calories, they're going to be building strength, their heart rate's going to be up, they're probably doing more than they were doing before, so that's going to at least kind of push you towards that weight loss goal to begin with. Also, if we're adding a little bit of muscle in a strength training program, that's going to raise your metabolic rate a little bit, probably going to help you lose a little bit of weight there if we're adding muscle mass to our body, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a hierarchy of importance, right? So it's like with fat loss, it's more you're going to be thinking more about accumulating volume, and accumulating how much increasing how much work you're doing throughout the week. With strength, you're still increasing, you're still trying to increase the amount of work you're doing throughout the week, but it's the end goal is more increasing intensity.
Yeah. So
it's just like on that spectrum of things, it's like it doesn't mean you have to be doing completely different exercises or completely different program design. If you're training for strength and fat loss, a lot of it's just going to be like, what we're doing with waiving our intensity and volumes.
Yeah.
And the fat loss is just going to be trying to accumulate volume, trying to increase the amount of work we're doing.
Yeah.
And strength is just going to be the goals the other way. It's a little bit more on the intensity side. So, you could literally have the same program and you're just doing different rep ranges, intensities, lower rest periods for the fat loss people. So we're staying at a heavier heart rate, burning more. But I think the myth is that it needs to be this whole different program where you're doing crazy.
You can't lose body fat if you're lifting weights.
Yeah, which is just
it's ludicrous.
It's the best way is to lift weights, and then the appetite. I mean the dessert should be doing some extra cardio and getting some extra like calorie expenditure.
Yeah, that's the cherry on top.
Yeah, it's the cherry on top, but the meat and potatoes has to be building muscle. That's what's going to drive those real adaptations to your body.
And good metabolic changes too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the short answer is yes, it can definitely do both at the same time, and I would argue that they're a lot of times going to be very similar.
Pretty similar.
Yeah, as far as the program design. Let me just get rid of this real quick. I think we're still good.
Still going. All right. Next question comes from Heidi, one of our newest members, and she asks how often to take a rest day.
Question.
Kick us off.
Yeah, sure. This is definitely one I feel like that's asked a lot by our clients. We have a lot of people that would train every
7 days a week, twice a day.
Yeah, if they didn't get told not to. And I would say it really, and like the part, it sucks. The answer is it depends.
Yeah.
But everyone should have a rest day probably in their week for sure. But ultimately, it's going to depend on the intensities that you're training at. So if you're doing a low intensity workout every day, like if your workout is a 20-minute low intensity cardio, then you probably don't need any rest days because you're not really doing that much.
You're not taxing the body too much.
You're not really fatiguing your system much. But if you're doing, for instance, like for me, 4 really hard powerlifting days, and where the intensity's pretty high, the volume's pretty high, I'm probably going to be pretty shot. My system's going to be pretty shot. It's going to be hard to train another 3 days.
Yeah.
and
especially from a central nervous system perspective.
Exactly. So the quality of your work is just getting less as you fatigue more. So you have to kind of take that into consideration and make sure that if we have a really spike of intensity and volume, that the next day is followed with a little bit less. So that give your body enough time to recover. So that could mean just a little bit of a easier workout, or it could mean a full day off, depending on how much you took out of yourself.
But I also think oftentimes people are thinking about what they're feeling that day. They might not feel that tired or that fatigued that day, but they're not thinking about what they do on that day that could have been a rest day is going to affect the next training session, or the training session after, or how that's going to affect week 3 when they're going super heavy or whatnot.
So it's kind of like a combination of you either have to really plan it out, plan out your monthly program or your weekly program with I'm gonna make sure I have rest days here because I know that my training's high this day and a little bit lower on this day, whatever. Or you kind of have to go by feel. I think the more advanced you are, the easier it is to do that. To really have a feel for your body and be like, I know that this day is not going to be good for me if I train. It's going to be worse, But when you're a little bit newer to the game, that's where it's good to have, some kind of coach to be like scheduling out your workouts so that it kind of works out that you train hard, your body's fatigued, get a little bit of recovery, and then you have another day that you can push again. So complicated answer to a short question.
And we won't really dive down the rabbit hole, but also nutrition and sleep and stuff like that is just super important. I mean, if people are sleeping 4 hours,
stress,
and stress at work, stress at school, it's those things are going to really take a toll on you over the workout week, and can really play a large role of how much rest we need.
And I think a lot of people don't, but I think most people kind of know that nutrition and sleep have this role. That's going to really, make a difference in recovery. But I don't think as many people realize how much just normal stress, relationship stress, work stress. We'll train personal training clients, and it's if their life's kind of a mess, their sessions don't go very well.
Sessions are terrible.
Yeah, and it's just stress is stress, and it will take a toll on your system, and that you need to recover from that as well. Or at least you have to know that's going to affect your performance.
It's going to factor that too, for sure.
So that's something else too.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Heidi. Erica coming in with some fire questions the last couple weeks. What do you do for winging scapula?
Yeah, it's kind of like winging scapula is one of those sort of like a buzzword. Not that it's not a real thing, but it's. I think it gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, people like to diagnose that.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got wing scapula.
Wing scapula.
Upper cross syndrome.
Yeah. I mean, we touched on it a little bit with some shoulder stuff last week. I think a lot of and this includes wing scapula. I think specifically with that, serratus is going to be a big key. To basically glue the scapula down a little bit more to the rib cage, but ultimately, all scapular mechanics are going to play a role in the position that it's resting. So, and some of it is going to be stress and posture and all that stuff. But I would say ultimately the role, what we're gonna take care of a lot of those diagnoses and a lot of those dysfunctions as far as the, shoulder scapular region goes is just gonna be hammering exercises that are gonna groove synergy. So that means scapula and humerus moving together, strengthening cuff muscles, strengthening the upper back muscles, lower traps is going to be another big key that's going to really help out, especially something like wing scapula. But and it's a hard one to kind of target for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially people who do have these super overactive upper traps. A lot of those exercises just turn into shrug variations.
But even just when their shoulders are sitting forward like this, it's pretty hard to get them back in a T properly because they're just going to kind of jam or any of those prone.
So you got to really, a lot of it's going to be attention to detail with any upper body exercise that you do, and you're going to get a lot more. Anyone with that kind of dysfunction is not going to do well, or you're not really treating that dysfunction if you're doing a lot of exercises like bench press, anything where your shoulder blades are glued to the bench. You're not really aiding in any of that dysfunction. You're not treating that. So you want to be doing things where we're getting full scapular motion, a lot of reaching variations, and so push-ups, landmine presses, band and cable presses, stuff like that, and obviously cable and dumbbell band rows. But it's all going to be about making sure everything's moving together, leading the way from that scapula, getting a full reach every time, and then everything kind of coming back together. So generally you can kind of see when there's an issue when you'll see somebody's with a row or something. You'll see arm then trying to pull scapula or that kind of thing. It's we want this to be everything moving together, whether we're pressing or rowing.
Definitely.
So another long answer.
All right, move forward. This one comes from Evan. It's the first time he's pinned us with a real question. The last couple weeks it's just been a bunch of BS questions. But how to help people with back pain, squatting, and deadlifting. So this is something that obviously we deal with on a regular basis with Gen Pop, with athletes and whatnot. We're in the business of loading people. So something that we take into consideration a lot is really position, right? So something we're going to be posting later today with our, our Feedback Friday post is just how we work people from rehab to performance and how we use our feedback systems and whatnot to get people in the right positions, feeling the right muscles. Drills to do the right things, right? And so I think when it comes to back pain with squatting and deadlifting, and we check off the box that maybe we've gotten them into the right position, they understand what they should be doing, we're feeling the right muscles, everything looks right, their squat and deadlift look right, but they're still feeling back pain. We were kind of talking about this before. We start kind of more shifting towards variations that are going to be a little bit easier for them. We don't necessarily need to put a bar on their back. We don't necessarily need to have them deadlift a bar off the ground, right? We can do other variations that are a little bit less spine loading, a little bit less compressive, where we can still tax them pretty good, right? We can do some goblet squat variations. We can do some RDL variations.
Well, I think one thing that's I think what scares a lot of people when they have this kind of back pain is I can't do the things I really love to do. It's I can't deadlift, I can't squat, whatever. And I think that, like you said, there's going to be a variation change, but a lot of times you can still do, almost just as intense, So a lot of things, if we want to get the best training stimulus, sometimes we can still get the hardest variation that we can do without symptoms. So sometimes if, say, we're back squatting, it might be a safety bar. It's going to be a little more upright, a little bit less lower back. Front squat, even more so stacked, generally going to be a little bit more friendly in the lower back. So, easily you can shift that and still be doing a squat pattern, still be really training hard, but take away that stress on the back. Or like you said, pull from blocks with a deadlift, hex bar. It's going to be a more upright, a little bit less, spine compression. Or less shear force actually, but. So that can be, you can still do a really hard variation where you're still drilling that same pattern, still squatting and deadlifting, just maybe taking back a little bit of the stress and tell that they've built some strength up in those positions basically, and then potentially you can
come back to it. I also think unilateral training, right?
For sure.
We'll back people off and do a lot of unilateral training to make sure that they're using the right mechanisms to stabilize their hips, stabilize their knees, and whatnot. Because I think that comes a lot with people that spend a lot of time doing bilateral training, right? As they don't develop the adductors, they don't develop the glutes, they don't develop the obliques as much because they have less, anti-rotational forces coming through that. because they're in that bilateral stance.
I mean, if you even think about a lot of the unilateral work takes a lot of anti-rotational core,
Exactly.
a lot more. You're working a lot of core elements that are going to really contribute to if you're doing heavy bilateral work.
Yeah.
So that's always going to help. A lot of time, yeah, we've done that with a lot of people. Just kind of ditched heavy bilateral work, but for a while, really hit it hard with heavy single leg stuff and put a lot of volume there, and then bring it back, and they're actually really stronger.
And they're better off. Yeah. And I think that kind of alluded to what our answer is, right? Is because some of the issues are that people just load too much with these bilateral exercises, lose their position. Yeah. So naturally, you go into unilateral stuff. Requires a lot more stability. We have to get in the right position. So naturally, that's going to decrease the load a little bit. Yeah. And we can kind of focus on adding more volume.
Makes them own it.
Makes them own the position a little bit more.
Where it's just a lot easier to compensate in a lot of those squatting and deadlift things and the heavier bilateral stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of times. It's just going to be changing it up a little bit just to try to get the same stimulus without the stress.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we can't squat and deadlift.
Exactly. Definitely doesn't mean we can't just train hard.
Because you gotta love when people come in and say that, my doctor said I can't squat or deadlift for the rest of my life. Yeah, we won't get into that argument today. Next one comes from Miriam, and she asks for what are the benefits of a strength-based program. Dylan, you want to lay into this one?
Yeah, obviously many benefits. Just if you look at health reasons, I think there's like this article that came out of research that they did with elderly people, and it was like the elderly people that
strength train versus
it was like the stronger people that have stronger legs basically live longer.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, people who fall are generally, something happens like that, and then it just kind of goes downhill. And so that's like obviously like just a version of just being stronger is making you more resilient.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna get hurt picking something up, you're not gonna blow out your back if you're strong. So there's like those just kind of benefits of just being able to get through life without as many issues basically with your body. But then I think from perspective of if we're looking for continual results, so if we're looking to keep getting better, keep getting stronger, keep getting, pushing goals and staying healthy, I think it's just a lot easier if we're looking at things through a strength lens because you can keep trying to figure out how to get more weight on the bar. It's measurable. You can kind of just have goals to push for. If your goals are just aesthetic, it's really tough to measure. It's hard to know where you are in this scheme of things, and it's just really easy to get demotivated. Yeah. But if you have specific strength goals, there's always going to be something you can kind of tackle, and always going to be if I put 2.5 more pounds on the bar, I'm getting better. Yeah. So that's a lot easier to just motivate yourself for, I think, than a lot of just like fat loss or something. Yeah.
Because there's so many different things that could affect why the scale is a certain number. Yeah. Right. Whereas when it comes to just getting stronger, all right, I was pressing the 25-pound dumbbells a month ago, and now I'm up to 35. Yeah. Like I'm getting stronger.
And also I really think that you see a lot of the things people want, aesthetic gains, aesthetic benefits, fat loss, you'll get that as a consequence of pushing for strength. Yeah. You'll see these people that all they're saying, all I do want to do is get stronger, but then their whole body composition changes because they had all the volume that they had to put in to get stronger is driving that fat loss, driving building muscle. So they're all kind of goes to that question earlier. I think they're along the same route. So you're going to get benefits in a lot of ways if we can make a lot of the focus being strength.
Definitely agree. Our last question of the day comes from another Evan, and it is, if you were to open flight today, what would you do differently? We purposely put this one last because I think there's a lot that we could kind of dive into with this.
A lot of mistakes.
A lot of mistakes, but
a lot of mistakes made.
I don't know. I think with anything, the more mistakes you make, the better you become because you learn from them. Or you could just sit there and keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
We've done that a little bit. A little bit of that too.
The definition of insanity. But yeah, I think a couple things. One that we're kind of really just cracking into. Like we just came out with our mission statement, like freaking 2 months ago. Like over 3 years into our business.
It's not like we didn't have.
We had ideas, but I just mean I think like. We didn't spend enough time getting the backside of the business prepared, right? We're like, all right, we got enough clientele to go in. We bought our equipment. All right, let's build the gym.
Our training methods are
pretty good. Let's just go in and start training people. So I think like to sum it up, we came in as trainers and we didn't come in as business owners, but like just things like having certain systems and protocol to like deal with employees, to deal with when this happens. We didn't have any of that, and we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a lot because of that.
I mean, it's just me and you just taking on every responsibility and sort of splitting them up, and so no matter what, things are going to get kind of lost in the shuffle, and there's a bunch of things that me and you aren't good at that just aren't our strength that we should be doing, like that they should be delegated
to someone who can do it better.
Who's going to do it better, and we just, I think some of it's a control thing of just like, we put so much work into getting it off the ground that it was hard for either of us to relinquish control of certain elements.
Let someone else do something.
And realizing like it's gonna be better for everybody if you just back off and let someone else take control.
Exactly.
And I think that's a huge thing between me and you definitely is just like figuring out where our strengths are and allowing the other person to kind of take that and run and you do the thing that you're good at.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's made a lot of those systems mistakes early, and then now it's like we're sort of trying to get everything in place so that there's not any issues with employees and development of them.
Yeah,
that's something that we didn't really have a system for.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have a system. I think that kind of talking about what you were saying about how we were trying to just take on the brunt of everything. In that, we were kind of a bit clouded and didn't give our employees everything that they needed.
Yeah.
Right.
And we didn't like give them enough responsibility. It's like we would say, hey, we want you to do this, but then when we didn't see it done the way we wanted to, instead of training them correctly or making clearer expectations, we would just jump in and do it.
Yeah.
And be like, well, like guess we have to do it.
It's
just a lack of understanding really how to manage, basically.
Yeah, realistically.
And then neither of us had any experience with that. We kind of thought like because we
knew what to do, or we knew how to step in
and stuff, that it was just like that's how you do it. But you can't just lead by example. You have to have everything in place and very clear what you're.
So we ran out of camera space. Like we said, running this business is a lot of learning.
Progress.
And this is our third episode, and we're still having technical difficulties, but separate technical difficulties. We'll get this together, we swear. But yeah, I guess what you were finishing off saying before was just that we need to have the right systems in place for our employees, so that after there's a certain issue, we have the proper things to go in line with that. Tell them, document it, tell them what we need or what we expect of them, and actually have a better process of giving that to them rather than hoping that they'll do something.
Basically, like constructive feedback, and that's the thing. We weren't really giving a lot of that. We were just taking things on ourselves. So, that's definitely improved, but we still have, I think, that's a goal of ours, is to get better and better at communicating our expectations, but also having like what those things are written out very clear from the start. I think another one that we briefly talked about right before is just one thing we would have done if we opened now is the first thing we probably would have done was hire a legit accountant. We were doing things a little bit kind of on our own / with
with consultation.
But it just it's just not. You have to realize how important that is. We don't know anything about accounting really, and definitely it's different with a business. So there are a lot more elements that we had no idea about, and neither of us are, we're not finance guys. So that was a huge thing that set. We just put ourselves in way too many fires right off the bat. Just having issues with that kind of thing. When if we had just invested from the start with that kind of stuff,
and figured out how we could work our own pay and around the rest of the money coming in around paying this person to handle this for us.
Exactly. Like it would have worked out fine. We would have been able to easily do it financially if we had just understood how important it was at the time. Just having that stuff squared away so that we don't have to worry about it, and it's not this constant thing that you have to over your head. So that we hit a lot of roadblocks just because of that, and we had to kind of fight through financially. So I think
it's across the board, which is delegating too, right? So recently we hired Ben to do some of our marketing, and we're seeing all this great stuff come from it. Whereas before we were trying to do it ourselves and we were terrible at it. We got no one from it, so we just got frustrated, and we said to ourselves, "Oh, the marketing doesn't make sense in our picture."
Word of mouth.
but it's word of mouth. But no, we just didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to do it right. But had we hired Ben maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, invested the money for that, thinking, you know, this is a legitimate investment, and we just need to figure out our finances elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get a lot of, and I think this is pretty common in small businesses, is like, you know, this thought that like, oh, we don't have the money for that.
Yeah.
You know, that's something like, we'll do it when we have the money.
Exactly. And we've done that a couple times.
Yeah, we've done that definitely a couple times. And if you're saying that, then it's probably something you need to invest in and find a way to make it work. And that's just something we've started to like just do with anything that we've kind of said that about. Like, oh, we'll do that when we have it. Like, and that's, you know, it's a perfect example. It's like there's no.
That day's probably never gonna come.
Yeah, the day's not gonna come. Like, and it's just like, if you want to have enough money, you have to invest in things and like that are actually gonna drive your business and make things better. And you know, that's a huge lesson. It's just with anything that you feel like that, marketing, you know, accounting, financial stuff, like invest in something that you need before it's a problem. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that concludes episode 3 of Q&A with D&J. It's been great.
See you next week.
With the pound. Oh, that was a good one. We're getting good at that.